I don't have a sales background, so my content is never really salesy. I normally ask people if they are interested in joining me rather than saying this is the link to join. Like the majority of the time, I want to engage with people who are potentially valuable for my business. And that's how I think most people will want to engage with the platform, not just for fun. So it's not just like a one-way street where I'm moving people to Substack. I'm actually moving people from Substack to my LinkedIn as well, which is my home.
Welcome back to the Online Writing Club show. Today, I'm so excited to introduce Melanie GOODMAN, the founder of Trevisan and a LinkedIn powerhouse. Melanie went from 0 to 24,000 Substack subscribers within a few months without importing a single email, simply by leveraging the audience she built over years on LinkedIn and telling them, hey, I'm also on Substack now. She's created a brilliant Substack LinkedIn flywheel, turning visibility into loyal owned audience. And she's not just building a list, she's showing how to monetize your skills and the expertise you've spent years developing in the corporate world or as a solopreneur, right from Substack. And the best part, Melanie and I are teaming up for a bootcamp to help you grow your own email list and start monetizing your expertise too. But before we get to that, let's dive into her insights and learn exactly how she built this flywheel from the ground up. Enjoy. First, Melanie, 24,000 subscribers is incredible. What do you think drove that early explosive growth on Substack?
So a lot of the people that I'm connected to already on LinkedIn hadn't even heard of Substack. So I think there was definitely a curiosity element. They knew me from LinkedIn. And then I had my account temporarily taken down from LinkedIn over the summer. So I set myself up on Substack and sort of used all the features, had it fully set up. And then I had all the contact details already of my LinkedIn connections. And I wrote to them all and said, I'm now writing all my strategy, all my LinkedIn tips, etc. on Substack. And I really hope that you'll be happy to read my content here. And that was how I started. And then it's grown from there.
Wow. And all this happened in 2025. So you really started this, as I always call it, Substack LinkedIn or LinkedIn Substack flywheel. And how would you describe this flywheel in the simplest terms?
I connect with people on LinkedIn and I normally grow a relationship there. And then I show them my Substack and hope that they can see what Substack offers that LinkedIn doesn't. So having both of them just gives you far more options of things you can do. As you know, like hosting podcasts, going live, a lot easier than on LinkedIn. I also have an email list. So my flywheel includes email as well. So we have LinkedIn, Substack, email that works very smoothly most of the time.
If you post something on LinkedIn, what does work best in regard to converting these followers into subscribers on Substack?
There's different, obviously I write differently on different platforms because the platforms are tailored to a slightly different audience and they work differently. So what works on LinkedIn might have the same theme on Substack, but I don't write it in exactly the same way because I want it to appeal to different types of people. There's a lot more sort of founders and solopreneurs on Substack. Whereas I have more connections on LinkedIn who are part of larger organizations. So I changed the way that I write for both platforms, but I do repurpose the same content because otherwise I would have complete overwhelm. And so a lot of my content on Substack will tell people how they can use LinkedIn to a greater degree, to greater effect, which is of interest to people who are on LinkedIn anyway. So that covers both platforms. But I do keep my content on LinkedIn solely about LinkedIn because LinkedIn doesn't prioritize when I share Substack articles. It doesn't really like sharing from other platforms.
And can you also repurpose stuff from LinkedIn on your Substack?
Yeah, I do that frequently. As I said, I slightly tailor the format because, for example, the Substack notes tend to be shorter and punchier, whereas a LinkedIn post it's got a bit more depth to it. So, but it often has the same themes, but I tailor them for each platform.
And if you would compare then LinkedIn and Substack, what is then different if I would post something on LinkedIn to posting something on Substack?
So I now prefer actually posting articles on Substack rather than on LinkedIn, only because it has so many more features on Substack where you can pull certain quotes so that they stand out, so that you can turn it immediately into a video. Substack does it for you. You don't need any tech skills. It takes it and puts it into an image that you can then use either on LinkedIn or on Instagram or wherever you are, as well as being on LinkedIn and Substack. And just the little features like that are far more advanced on Substack than they are on LinkedIn. So I tend to slightly change, because I don't want to ruin my SEO. So I slightly change the content. So I haven't got duplicate content on both platforms. I use the sort of various features that Substack has that LinkedIn doesn't. The way when you write on Substack, as you know, you can prompt people to subscribe in various places, add buttons directly to articles so that people can go to your website or download something or just share your publication, which is much more limited on LinkedIn.
And I think most online writers are somehow afraid, or people who are professionals on LinkedIn, they are afraid of sounding like salesy. How do you make like this invitation to join you on Substack feel natural and not like a pitch? What are you doing there? Are there any tips, Melanie, you can share?
I don't have a sales background, so my content is never really salesy. I don't push links, so I don't push links on people. I normally ask people if they are interested in joining me, rather than saying this is the link to join. So I usually work backwards, because firstly, I don't want to be have any of my content marked as spam. So I would normally always ask people if they're open to receiving my content elsewhere. And some people will say no thanks, but most people say yes please. So that's how I work. I don't tend to push links on people. I ask them if they're interested. But when you import into Substack, it gives you the option to write a welcome email. And I just keep it very light and courteous and say, if it's not for you, that's fine. You don't have to subscribe. So there's no, it's a pressure-free, stress-free experience. If they want to, they can. If they don't, they don't have to.
You're bringing people then to Substack, and then you would want to make these free subscribers into paid subscribers. Do you have any tips on this based on your client work?
I've noticed there's lots of different creators on Substack, and they all have different business models. We all have different business models. So for me, I don't offer a very sort of $8 a month or an £8 a month membership. So for me, you can read everything for free, and there's free LinkedIn tools on my Substack, and there's a lot of things you can do for free. But I encourage people to actually become an annual subscriber. So you can become a monthly subscriber, like for £49 a month. But actually, it's way better value to become an annual subscriber. It's like £190 for the whole year. And that's how actually my business model works, is that not thousands of paid subscribers paying like £5 a month, but instead I have fewer paid subscribers, but they're higher value, and they get a one-to-one call with me, and they get premium LinkedIn tools, etc. So that's my business model, is to have fewer, higher value.
And I can remember when we met on Notes, and then you asked me to join your community. And the best part is then that I talked with you about the bootcamps I'm doing. So I'm pretty happy that we're also going to do a bootcamp together, like a Substack LinkedIn bootcamp, where we're going to help people like convert these followers or people who are just like following on LinkedIn into real subscribers that then get your emails in their inboxes.
It's actually worked both ways for me. So my LinkedIn following has also really increased, because people are coming from Substack to learn more about LinkedIn. So they are following me on LinkedIn. So it's not just like a one-way street where I'm moving people to Substack. I'm actually moving people from Substack to my LinkedIn as well, which is my home.
I want to celebrate 1 year of my podcast with you. Here's how you can join the celebration. Check the show notes for a special surprise to celebrate 1 year of the podcast. Thinking about 2026, what do you think about Substack? Is Substack worth it? And also compared to LinkedIn, what can Substack give you that LinkedIn simply can't at the moment?
Direct monetization. But actually, you can actually have your Substack is basically a mini website. So for people who don't have their own website, or they work for bigger companies, but they still have things to offer themselves, you can basically set your Substack up like a mini website without needing all the tech and infrastructure and a website designer. People can just engage your services from a tab on Substack, as well as reading articles. So, and you can have digital products, you can have your services, it depends on what your offering is. that's what I would say. It's basically like having a mini website, which at the moment LinkedIn isn't. You have your profile page, but then they have to go somewhere else to look at your website, etc. Whereas I've sort of duplicated a lot of my website on my Substack page.
It's not this buzzy newsletter platform anymore. It's really like this empire. You can build your empire. And thinking again about your LinkedIn profile, have you also linked your Substack newsletter to your profile? Because there is this opportunity, this possibility that you're gonna link to a website or a newsletter from your LinkedIn.
No, so my LinkedIn is the direct button that's underneath my headline takes people to my actual company website, to my own Trevisan website. It doesn't take people to my Substack. What I often do is sometimes I will put in one of the comments under my posts that I run a Substack. But for me, it's important that people go from my LinkedIn to my actual website to see, because that's my core business. And I think that people always need to keep in mind what they're trying to get out of being on a platform. And so I'm teaching people how to use LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is my primary platform, but it lacks features which I can use Substack for, which is what I think a lot of people will find useful, is that they can still have their major presence on LinkedIn where their clients are, but those potential clients can benefit from the features that Substack are offering. So, you can have all your potential clients on LinkedIn, but those people can read your articles and use your tools and book a call all through Substack. So for me, I'm combining both platforms. Basically, I'm taking the best bits of both platforms and putting them together.
So they definitely fit together like peanut butter and jelly in this case, and we can build this amazing flywheel. And if we're thinking about the curriculum, I also would ask you, when it comes to my LinkedIn profile, would you recommend, for instance, for me, as I started in 2022, to also put my Substack newsletter, that I'm the owner of this newsletter or the host of the Online Writing Club show, something like this? Would you also recommend us to put something like this on our LinkedIn profiles in the curriculum?
Yeah, so I have it in my experience section. I have, if you look down my experience section on LinkedIn, I have that's where I have my Substack newsletter, or in my experience section. And the great thing is when you add it, it tells all your LinkedIn connections that you've added it, so they get a prompt to go and look at it. And then, if you've got a great article written on Substack, you can add it to your LinkedIn featured section. In my featured section on LinkedIn, that's also where I tell people I have a placeholder that says I run a Substack community. It's got 24,000 people in it, and this is what you get. And then they can just click on it. So that's in my shop window on LinkedIn.
If you're thinking about LinkedIn in 2026, is it still this business-y platform, whereas Substack is this writerly platform? Would you say that you can really take the stuff that you're sharing on LinkedIn, tweaking it, putting it on Substack, and monetizing your professional skills?
Yeah, that's what I would suggest, and that's how I'm working. A lot of it depends who you follow on Substack as to the experience that you have. So a lot of the people that I follow and have subscribed to on Substack are people who are in private equity, venture capital, AI, sort of the business entrepreneurship areas. Whereas, of course, there's other people who are subscribed to people who are in yoga or fashion or much more woo-woo sort of areas, which is not my thing. So, and you can enjoy those. I'm subscribed to a couple of fashion people who are great and they're fun, and I enjoy reading their content, but that's not my business area. So you can tailor it. There's so many different sections. There's training, entrepreneurship, business on Substack. So it's just about finding your community. And for me, the majority of the time, I want to engage with people who are potentially valuable for my business. And that's how I think most people will want to engage with the platform, not just for fun. So, you've got Instagram if you want to browse at night. Substack is a bit longer form, and I would suggest using it as a business platform. I suspect that's most people who are listening to us will want to use it for.
For those who would like to start a side hustle in 2026, and they would like to start a Substack in addition to their LinkedIn profile, which, just be a profile where they post occasionally, what do you recommend then people? So for instance, me, I'm a part-time writer on Substack, and I'm always wondering whether I should put my Substack on my LinkedIn or not, like mixing up my corporate world and the side hustle world. Let's call it like this. What is your recommendation for everyone who's listening right now?
Definitely put it on your LinkedIn because it adds to your credibility. You can write and people are interested and they can read a bit more and learn a bit more about you. I found Substack, it's been a great source of sort of almost like passive income. People but for me, it's like people book who I would never have found, book training, book consultancy and training sessions with me through Substack. It's really easy. Substack makes it very easy. I have a tab on my Substack where you can book one-to-one. And people just who don't know me just book it. Whereas on LinkedIn, that's a bit more difficult. It's, it's a bit of a longer time to build a relationship, and it's just a different type of platform. So I think definitely Substack for, let's say, sort of, your side hustle, passive income, especially if you're working in a larger firm, coaches, consultants, anyone like that, Substack is brilliant for. Just gives so many opportunities to earn extra money.
For everyone listening right now and thinking, I don't want to sound or to be repetitive, always sharing like similar ideas on both platforms, what would you tell these people?
Firstly, you get a different audience on both platforms. The same as I would say to people on LinkedIn who are worried always about repurposing. People don't remember unless you write the exact same post. People are busy and they're self-centered, and no one is really that concerned with what you're like, the minutiae of what you're sharing. So you can have the same theme as long as it's not like exactly the same post. So I produce a huge amount of content. So I'm not actually, even though I always telling other people to repurpose, I'm not actually great at doing it myself. But I will often so I can take an article and then make that into 4 Substack notes and then make that into a LinkedIn post, and then I might read some of it and it becomes a video. So I do repurpose in different ways. I think you have to, otherwise you have a breakdown. Otherwise it's just too much going on, and we've all got real clients and like real jobs. So you have to actually service your clients that you're using the platforms to get. You actually have to obviously provide the best service you can after you've actually got them as clients. So otherwise it will fall apart.
Yeah, and Substack's team is really working on creating like a link between Substack and, for instance, YouTube, and now also LinkedIn. So for instance, now social clips can also be shared. So when you're like recording something as we were doing, or we would do a Substack live streaming there, then Substack would send us an email, and you and I, Melanie and I, we could then share these clips on Substack Notes, which is the internal social media network of Substack. And if you're thinking about, for instance, these clips, and that I can check this box where I would then say, hey, please, if I'm going live, if I'm sharing a video or whatever, then also automatically share this on LinkedIn. What feeling do you have in regard to this? And what do you recommend us to do if we want to start this Substack LinkedIn flywheel?
I don't do lives on Substack. I haven't, not because I won't, I just haven't done it. But what I would say is, in the same way, is that I would use the LinkedIn, like their events feature. You can plan your live on Substack because it's actually easier to host on Substack, but use LinkedIn to tell people about it, because you can invite like 500 of your connections to attend the event on LinkedIn. And that's what I've used for LinkedIn Lunch and Learns. People have joined from LinkedIn, even though it's like actually through my Substack subscription. So they join on LinkedIn, but then they get to join the Zoom call. They have to subscribe to my Substack. So that's how I do it. I use LinkedIn as actually to get people to join the event.
So you're not sharing videos, for instance, on LinkedIn then, or clips or so?
Not from my Substack, no.
Without Substack, you're doing this?
I do it to Instagram. I'll tell you the reason I don't is because at the moment, the videos, like, you have a choice. I could put a voiceover on, or otherwise it's AI generated, and they're just not the greatest quality video. So they're fine for Instagram, but not really for my LinkedIn, which I try and keep quite professional and classy.
Share this episode with a friend who's been thinking about starting a podcast, and help me celebrate 1 year of this journey. Thank you so much. What you can do for everyone listening is really, if you're thinking about live streaming, for instance, you can go live on Substack. And then the cool thing is that afterwards you got a going to get an email, and then Substack is going to tell you, hey, here we created like 8 clips for you. And then, for instance, you can like check this box and you can say, hey, please automatically share this on LinkedIn, or you can just simply download it and then later repurpose this via a scheduling tool on LinkedIn, which I think is nice if you're also going to say, hey, I'm creating content, I'm putting time into this. I also have my full-time job or my part-time job, and I'm just like taking this from Substack and then putting this on LinkedIn. So I think this is a smart way to like, again, start this flywheel. And Melanie, one of the questions would also be, when we were thinking about like the dashboard and all the metrics or signals, what would you check to see whether this flywheel is working?
Yeah, I check my follower growth on a regular basis. And then I can often see the types of people. And when I connect with people, when they send me an invitation to connect, I ask people where they've come from in a nice way. In the same, when they book a call with me, I ask people, like, how did you come across me? How did you find me? And I always get super excited when they say, oh, I found you on Substack. And yet they've booked a paid call with me to learn about LinkedIn strategy. Then I know that it's all working well.
And also in the dashboard, when you go on subscribers and then on growth, you can also check where these people are coming from. And I would assume that lots of people are finding you via LinkedIn. So this would be like the strongest signal. So for instance, this week I also talked to Ellen Share. She's a therapist from Florida. She recently moved to California. And what she's seeing is really that people are sharing her stories on LinkedIn, and she doesn't really want, to mix these two worlds, like the corporate world and then her like side hustle. However, this is working. This flywheel is keeps spinning and spinning and spinning because people love her long form stories, and so lots of people are coming via LinkedIn. So the cool thing really is about Substack that recently they like revamped their dashboards, and now you can see exactly where these people are coming from. And also, for instance, you can track all the links and all the stuff. So even if you have specific offers or so that you would want to offer people on Substack, then you can do this because Substack isn't penalizing it. So I really think that if you want to monetize your skills, then Substack is definitely the right place, especially if you're thinking about at some point also earning like recurring revenue and not just like getting consulting or finding a new job, whatever.
It's really powerful. There's so many different ways that I'm seeing people use it, and I'm always interested in watching what other people are doing as well. A lot of people selling products on there, or digital products, etc. There's a lot of different ways that people can use it, and it's interesting looking at the different types of people, how they're using it. A lot of the people in sort of venture capital and private equity, it's really surprised me the amount of people that are on Substack, writing on Substack, and how they're using it to get their names better known. Because when I first joined, I was like, not sure whether the sorts of people that I normally work with are going to be on this platform. And what I would say is, though, that LinkedIn is far better for searching for targeted searches of your like ideal types of client. So I still find people on LinkedIn rather than searching for people on Substack. So I'm still moving people that way from LinkedIn to Substack to make sure that I'm engaging with the right sort of people, and that I'm not just like wasting my time on just like enjoying myself on Substack, but actually not making any money, because that's not ideal. So, and you can go down a rabbit hole with these like platforms. So as fun as they are, I try and think, okay, what am I doing here? And I'm finding my right people on LinkedIn, and I'm engaging, I'm connecting, then I'm moving them to Substack, which for me, I feel is the right way to do it, rather than just find fun people on Substack and then they don't convert. So.
From the people you're seeing now on Substack that came from LinkedIn, do you have some examples what these venture capitalists or whoever are doing right now on Substack, to give some examples for people who have no clue what they could post or could do on Substack?
So a lot of them post like trends, so market trends. They are investors. They might post about companies that they've invested in and founders, and giving advice. It depends what area they're coming from. But yeah, I'm reading like lots of different publications from people. A lot of people AI about the latest trends and how to use it to use it in whichever area you are, not just marketing people, but how to use it if you're in finance, if you're in operations, etc. So there's a lot of really useful tips and tools on there. A lot of people are sort of giving their own like experience, so their own market experience and what they're seeing, and sort of trends in the market and things like that. That's interesting. There's people sharing data insights. So You've got like James Eagle, who I don't know if you know James. He shares like amazing sort of infographics and data visualizations. But yeah, you just find your niche, you find what interests you, you find where your potential clients are.
And I guess these infographics can be then repurposed on both platforms. So you can post them on LinkedIn and you can...
So that I do. I use my graphics because otherwise, like, my graphic designer would have like 3 times as much work, which is probably good for her, not so good for me. So I use my same graphics, but usually, as I said, with different text. But yeah, I use the same graphics, and they're usually of interest to people on both platforms. So.
Yeah, and Melanie, we know that you built your business on LinkedIn, and now you're like somehow also like expanding your business by building an email list on Substack. And I'd like to know what changed, like, or how has building this email list changed the way you think about like independence, safety, and also like long-term audience strategy? What did change there over the course of time?
I started off because I realized I didn't that you're on borrowed land on LinkedIn because and you don't own your data, etc. So for people who don't know, when people subscribe to your Substack, they give you their email address, so it's like win-win. But even with Substack, it's another platform. So I have those email addresses, email them from as part of my newsletter, which I send to both connections and to Substack subscribers now off LinkedIn, which I host on something called Kartra. But these people I usually email once a week, and they're used to hearing from me. Some of them have been on my list for like years, and that I own completely. So then I've taken people off another platform that doesn't belong to me, whether it's Substack, whether it's LinkedIn, and put them into my own email list. And actually, I get I get a strong open rate from that. So.
And if someone listening now wants to start their own LinkedIn Substack Flywheel today, what is like the single easiest starting action you tell them to take right now?
I would say download all your data from LinkedIn. That's really important. And I would say that even if you don't start a Substack, it's really important to download your data from LinkedIn.
And everyone, Melanie, who would like to contact you now and has fallen in love with you, where can we find you on Substack or on LinkedIn?
On Substack, I run the Link Tank. So the Link Tank is my publication. So you can find me on there and loads of information. And on LinkedIn, I'm Melanie Goodman. My company is Trevisan.
And in regard to the bootcamp, like, let's say, like the final word about the bootcamp, how excited are you on a scale from 0 to 10?
10. No, obviously no. I'm really excited. I think we can, we can make great strides together. I'm teaching people. You're an expert on Substack. I'm an expert, hopefully, on LinkedIn, and really show people how to get the most out of both platforms within like 3 days. I set up my Substack over the summer. I just like one weekend, I learned as much as I could, and I was then like flying after that. I knew what I was doing, and it just becomes a momentum, and you're all set up to go. So I think it'll be a great few days.
I'm already jumping out of my skin, excited for this wonderful bootcamp. And Melanie, thank you so much. It was delightful.
Thanks, Kristina.
I want to celebrate 1 year of my podcast with you. Here's how you can join the celebration. Check the show notes for a special surprise to celebrate 1 year of the podcast.